I'm Brixton, I work here at AwardCo, and I am the culture king.
I think that the biggest thing that sets ExDM students apart from the rest of the business school is the fact that they are not only learning the business side with the core things like accounting and finance and understanding how to operate from a logistical perspective, but also getting a psychology perspective that is going to affect no matter what career field they go into. They have this understanding of the human experience that is applicable across all career fields. And so while a lot of industries focus specifically on a certain skill set, ExDM is giving a broader set of soft skills that are applicable to any career choice that you would choose.
I feel like a student that's wanting to sell their soft skills, the best thing you can do is just demonstrate that in every conversation that you have. I always use the example of an intern I hired here at AwardCo, where, as we hire, we want to see if they're good at communication, if they're good at following through, things like that. Well, he did that in every interaction, both from the job fair, or starting at the job fair, I should say, all the way down to his final interview. So when it came decision time, it was a no-brainer that we would select him. So don't just talk about it, just show it.
The biggest thing is honestly just being confident. I love interviews, and I know that I'm kind of weird that way, but I love the opportunity to get to know new people and kind of talk about myself in a way that helps people understand that I truly believe in myself and my abilities. And so I think the biggest thing is that so many times we let ourselves get so concerned about how other people are viewing us, when really it's like, how do we view ourselves and how are we portraying that view to other people? So when you go into interviews, make sure that you're relying on those things that you learned in MCOM, because that is honestly one of the best classes I ever took, is go through those professional skills to prep yourself, get yourself in the right mental state, and then just make sure that you're confident in your abilities, and that will translate to the companies that you're interviewing with.
Maybe something a bit more unconventional. I'd be willing to play where an organization needs you. A lot of people, especially students, when they graduate, they think, hey, I know exactly what type of job, I know what company I want to work at, and they're just bent on getting that job first thing out of college. Well, you've got a long career ahead of you. You have a lot of experiences you probably still need to have. What I would do first is operate like a heat-seeking missile. Go somewhere, figure out where the heat is, and then just strike there, right? So in HR, for example, it's like, hey, maybe I need to learn how to do payroll first, because I know a lot of people struggle with that. Well, go get a job, learn how to do payroll, so at the next organization, you know how to do that and you can offer it. Don't worry so much about title or salary right now, worry more about the opportunity, and the job will follow.
I think one of the best things you can do going into an interview is actually have understanding about what the company does, but not only what they're doing, but what are the hottest things that are happening for that company right now. When I was interviewing at AwardCo, they had just gone through a round of seed funding and raised $65 million. And so I made sure that that was one of the first things I hit on in the interview to show that I was keeping up with AwardCo and I was excited about it. And that's something that my hiring manager has mentioned to me was impactful to them in that interview process, was the fact that I was bringing up things that were relevant, and I had an understanding of not only what that seed funding meant, but then also what it projected AwardCo to do. So just make sure that you're look at their website, get familiar with their voice, what do they look like, what do they feel like, how do they portray themselves, and then look up news articles, look at their latest posts, look at their latest blogs. So just kind of envelop yourself in the company culture so that you can make sure that you're speaking the language that they speak.
In my coaching, I feel like one of the best things you could do when you're looking at a new company that you're thinking about joining, take a look at their mission, take a look at what they're trying to change or do in the world, and ask yourself if that excites you. Ask yourself if that's something that you're passionate about, right? You don't have to be totally, I know there's a lot of tech products out there. It's I might not be super into dental software or something like that, but at least I like the vision and I like where the company is going and I want to be a part of it. So I always encourage people, look for mission, look for culture.
There's so many different ways that you can go with a resume, and I think it's specific to what career field you're going into. For someone in client success, there's going to be things like project management experience, client relationship experience that's going to be super beneficial, whereas with an event role, it would be super beneficial to see some internship experience or ability to manage a project from start to end, or event experience, obviously, with different sizes of events. So from nonprofit to corporate, like anything along those lines. So the biggest thing is that sometimes I think we get in this habit of having the same resume for every single job, and we just send the same resume to 20 different companies. And I think one of the biggest misses that we make is not capitalizing. That resume is like that's like what your first impression that the company has of you. And so how can you fine tune it to meet that specific job role? It's gonna take a little bit more work to do that. You're obviously gonna have to spend a little more time curating these, but when you're really looking, especially that first job out of college, like make sure that you're so intentional about that so that you can make sure that every interview you have, every job you apply for, you're giving yourself the best opportunity to succeed.
Okay, so what stands out on a resume? This is another unconventional, very Brixton answer. What stands out to me on a resume is anything that will help me understand that this person is actually a human. So I want it well organized. We like it when you can tell that there's a lot of thought into it. But I saw a resume once where someone put that they had recently bought a scooter. So they had a section for interests. They recently bought a scooter and could be seen riding around town living their best life. That's like word for word what it said. And I thought that was such a good resume because it's like, okay, your skills are great, but you also seem like a good human that I would want to work with and relate to. Yeah, cover letters, kind of a hot topic among recruiting. Depending on who you ask, you might get a different one. I'd say, hey, maybe they're not always totally necessary, but for me as a hiring manager, and I'd say any hiring manager, you're looking for candidates that show attention to detail. They show that they're professional and that they're ready to go. A cover letter that's well thought out, just like a resume, never hurts. So you have nothing to lose by making a really good one and submitting it. I wouldn't lose sleep over it, but it's a nice touch.
One of the biggest interview mistakes, I think, is people going in with the mindset of wanting to be a people pleaser and just seeming like a yes man, which is for most hiring managers a bit of a turnoff in the terms that we want to bring in people who have new ideas, who are willing to think outside the box and kind of push back on things. So obviously you don't want to be combative or argumentative. But I think one of the biggest mistakes I always get is someone just like agreeing or thinking that everything is awesome, like can't say enough about the company. What I love is when someone comes in with some ideas of like, hey, I love what you guys are doing here, and these were some things I was thinking about of like, where could we go with this? And so just be thinking outside the box and just try to make yourself stand out, because hiring managers oftentimes are going through interview after interview after interview, and it is so important that you make yourself stand out in that process. And one of the best ways you can do that is being prepared with new ideas to provide to them so that they can show that you're ready to hit the ground running when you start.
Common interview mistakes, I feel like, kind of like what we were talking about earlier, people for some reason in an interview setting, maybe it's nerves, maybe it's a desire to just be totally professional, they forget to be themselves and actually communicate who they are as a person and what drives them. People want to work with people, so you need to be able to demonstrate that in an interview. My wife actually just got an offer to start at a new company, and when she asked for feedback, the thing that stood out more than anything, not her design craft, not her accomplishments, the thing that had them say she is the one was the fact that she talked in her interview about how she likes to watch anime after work, and she has plants that she's trying to take care of and she's failing at it. And it's like, okay, here's like a relatable human that we feel we could put in front of other people and a team.
One, obviously talking to people that work at the company. So one of the best things you can do, LinkedIn is your greatest tool. So just make sure that when you're looking at different companies, try to connect with people who work there, reach out to them, ask them questions, ask if you can go to lunch. Most professionals are so excited by the opportunity to mentor new employees and people coming out of college. So take that opportunity as a college student to really capitalize on that. So reach out to different employers, reach out to different people in the company, find somebody that you know that knows somebody, and just try to get in and understand what their culture looks like from an actual employee perspective. But then also just envelop yourself in that company's LinkedIn profiles. What are they posting about? What do they seem to care about? What are the top things top of mind? Look up videos of the CEO giving presentations and figure out what message does the CEO portray? Is this somebody that I would want to work for? And if so, what about them inspires me and makes me want to be a part of that company?
Best way to learn about culture, ask someone who works there. You could try going to the website and like seeing what they think their values are, what their buzzwords and things like that. I would just network with someone maybe on LinkedIn or job fair or something like that and have them define it in their own words right there in the moment. I would hope that they've done their research. I'm not expecting them to be experts on what AwardCo or our company does, what we offer, but I do want them to have at least demonstrate that they put in some time and some effort into learning about who we are and what we're all about. Again, I'm not looking for expertise. I don't think that'd be fair, but I do want to see some evidence of effort. Ooh, just ask as many questions as you can. Don't worry so much about leading with sometimes students, again, maybe they get really nervous and they feel like they need a flex as well, I've done this, this, and this. It's like, dude, we all know you're a student, you're looking for experiences. It's all good. The students we like working with the most, or the fresh graduates we like working with the most, are the ones who demonstrate they have a high capacity to learn and they're willing to play where they're needed. So when a student comes to me and asks tons of questions and you can tell they're a sponge ready to learn, that's the type of person I'm going to choose to have on my team every time.
Great question. Honestly, the biggest thing that I ever did was when I got out of college, I went straight into a job that I knew was going to open up my network in an insane way. So I found a company where I was going to be traveling all over the world and doing events with companies all over the world. Not everyone's going to have that luxury and not everybody wants that style of a job, but you have to put yourself in opportunities to meet different people. So for some, it's going to be what I did, and it's going to a company where you have a client list that's across the globe and you go meet people everywhere. For other people, it's joining a Women in Tech Council in Utah. It's participating in these professional organizations where you can meet people who are at places in their career where you want to be and just opening up your network that way. The other biggest thing is just LinkedIn. I can't hit on LinkedIn enough. Get on there, create content, post, interact with people, reach out, ask to set up interviews, ask to set up lunches, just get to know people within the different industries that you're connected with, and just really capitalize on doing that. And then once you create connections, then you can start asking them to introduce you to other people, and that will just continue to grow. And so just make sure that you're opening yourself up. It can be, I'm an introverted person in my personal life, and so it can be really daunting and overwhelming to think that you have to do that. But if you just set a goal every week of okay, this week I'm going to add 3 people on LinkedIn and just send them a message telling them hey, I'm a new ExDM student who's looking to graduate soon and I'd really love to connect with you and just learn about your job. Just simple things like that. You're going to be shocked at the amount of people who not only accept it, but then also they follow up with oh, I'd love to bring this person into it as well. So just try to capitalize on all of those opportunities that you have and utilize LinkedIn as much as you can.